Did I just uncover a hidden gem or stumble upon a dud? Today, we're checking out my most recent eBay purchase, none other than the iconic A4 Mallard Locomotive. Join me as we unbox, inspect and evaluate this beauty to see if it truly lives up to its legendary reputation. So let's dive right in. Now I can hardly contain my excitement. It arrived just a few weeks ago, advertised as the Hornby R32700 LNER Garter Blue Class A4 Pacific with DCC sound fitted and it's boxed. It was listed as used and I secured it for £85 with a £5 delivery charge. I've always dreamed of having a Mallard in my fleet, and to have one with sound, it's fantastic. But will the DCC sound live up to the expectations? Stick around to find out. A couple of points to raise. Firstly, the model number is incorrect in the listing. Secondly, the contents of this assessment is not aimed at the seller. It's not the intention here. You buy everything at face value on eBay. Now that we've got that clarified, here's the game plan. I've got an assessment criteria to help me figure out if this beauty is a gem or if we've snagged ourselves a dud. I'll pop this criteria up on the screen as we tackle them, so you're in on the action every step of the way. And if you haven't seen my previous episode where I did a deep dive into the assessment criteria, then you can find that on the card at the top of the page. Now, this isn't just me talking at you. I want you all in on this. Agree with my take? Think I'm missing the mark? I want to know. So hit up those comments. Your opinion matters, not just to me, but everybody else tuning in. So buckle up as we dive into the nitty gritty, kicking off with point number one, the packaging. Alright, let's talk packaging. True to the eBay listing, our Loco arrived boxed up in its original packaging. Now, the box itself, it's seen better days, but there's no major trauma. Sure, the corners are a bit battered, par for the course really, but overall, it's held up decently. No disasters here. So, here's how I'm scoring it. For simply having its original box, that's a straight up 5. It's what we expected, right? Now, as for the box condition, I'm thinking a 4. It's survived the journey through time, though it's clearly not mint condition. Moving on guys, let's look over the condition of the Loco. Starting with damage, or lack thereof thankfully. The bodywork, well, it's pristine. The Loco seems to have led a charmed life because it's in tip-top shape, buffers and all. Given it's from the railway range, it's not a delicate model, it's built tough. So for condition, it's a no-brainer. It gets a 5 from me. Now, what about wear and tear? Well, here's the kicker. There's barely a hint of it. It sprang to life the moment it left the box, no coaxing needed. Sure, it's not fresh from the factory. We're dealing with a 5 to 10 year old model, but you can tell it's been treated well and looked after. For keeping up appearances and performance, I'm handing out a solid 4. But then, we hit a snag. The missing parts section. On the outside, it's all good. The inside though, different story. Just when I was starting to get good vibes, I found out the speaker in the tender's not working. It does look like the previous owners had a go at fixing it because the speaker was just rattling around in there and the screw, meant to keep it grounded, had vanished. It's such a shame. So I'm scoring it as a 2. I can't sugarcoat it really. Alright, let's dive into DCC compatibility. Here's the deal. Even though our speaker is not working, the decoder is still functioning and doing everything else it's supposed to. So, for being DCC fitted, it's snagging a 5 out of 5 from me. Fair's fair, right? But then guys, we have to mark it down when it comes to DCC functions working correctly. This is where our Loco is going to feel a sting. No sound on the sound Loco. That's like a guitar without its strings. It's a big disappointment. especially since I was all excited for my first sound loco. I won't lie, I'm gutted. Proper gutted, to be fair. So, I'm going to give it a 2 here. Why? Because only half the DCC decoder is working. Alright guys, let's move on over to the detail department. Paintwork. It's got its Sunday best on. No scuffs, no scrapes. Sure, what we do have is a bit of snazzy white and black lining up front. No, it's not weathered, but the finish is smooth and consistent. So I'm feeling generous, giving it a 4. Now leaning in closer, real close, let's take a look at the fine detail. Well, it's a bit sparse, guys. Remember, we're looking at a railroad model here, so it's not dripping with high-end frills. It is as it comes, no more, no less. The model's a decent middle of the real deal, but doesn't pack any wow factors. It's your run-of-the-mill model, so it's sitting comfy with a middle-of-the-road score of 3. Last up in detail, we have quality of materials. What's the verdict? It's solid. No die-cast running plate, but it's holding its own. The build quality doesn't have me super excited, but it's not a heartbreaker either. There are no obvious joins on the boiler, but then there's a coal load in the tender, looking a bit average, so I'm giving it another 3. Okay guys, let's take a look at its performance. First up, running quality. Here's the lowdown. It runs well, nice and quiet and smooth. Yeah, it sometimes needs a bit of warming up, but only a few minutes and it's all systems go. That's quality in my book, so it's getting a 4 out of 5 from me. Now, how about the volume control? Guys, you can barely hear the mechanism. No complaints here. That's another win with a score of 4. Let's slow things down. It's great at slow speeds. It's steady and it's slick. Not much more to say other than it scores 4 out of 5 from me. Track performance? No drama here. No derailments ever. It glides along the rails. Full marks here, guys. A 5 out of 5. But then, points are a different story. Picture this. I'm here, right now, filming, expecting smooth movement over the points, and then there's this clunk. One of the wheels rises up and falls rapidly, making a loud clunking noise. It's a modern loco. I don't expect this to happen. I need to look at this in more detail off camera. But credit where it's due, it doesn't stall or short when it goes over the points. So it's not all doom and gloom. I'm giving it an average score of 3 out of 5. Alright guys, let's switch tracks and chat about some general stuff, starting with the brand. We're dealing with a Hornby here, the old reliable of the model train world. Now, Hornby models don't disappoint. They're not fantastic, but they do the job in my opinion. They park right in the middle of the model locomotive brand spectrum for me. A sturdy, dependable 3 out of 5. That's what I reckon. Now, as of July, this loco ranked 6 in the charts. A4 Mallards have always been an iconic model for all collectors in the hobby. As it's so high, it gets a 5 out of 5. Age-wise, we're in a grey area. This model could be from any time between 1984 and now. However, the fact it's DCC fitted with a TTS chip means it's from 2016 or later. It's not a relic, nor fresh off the Hornby production line, so it's clocking in a comfortable 3 out of 5. Okay, in terms of rarity, if this model were a pop song, it'd be the one you'd hear every time you switched on the radio. We're talking 6 years of production and counting. It's everywhere. It's a popular model and common. I'm sure most collectors have at least got one in the collection. It scores just 1 out of 5. Last up in this section, let's check its weight. It's a lengthy loco stretching out to a respectable 291 millimeters. So I'm expecting a bit of heft, and it delivers. Weighing in at a solid 232 grams, This loco isn't the heaviest, but it ain't light either. I wish the tender had more weight. It's a little light. It's average weight, so it's about a 3 out of 5. Alright guys, we're steaming into the final set of measures. Let's talk value. I spent about £85 for this loco. I've done a little review of prices on eBay today to see how this stacks up. And guess what? The going rate's about £84. So, we're in the same ballpark. That means it's a firm 3 out of 5 in my book. But here comes the kicker, the future resale value. This model has been flying off the production lines at Hornby for a number of years. I think the second-hand market is saturated with A4s. In fact, the model did rank 6, and now it's slipped 4 spots to 10th. Based on these two factors, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5, guys. And that wraps up our assessment, guys. Do we see eye to eye, or is there something you challenge? Let me know in the comments what you think. Was I a little hard on the loco, or did it get an easy ride? And now, guys, for the moment of truth. It's time to crunch the numbers and find out if this loco was really worth it. So, I've gone ahead and filled out our nifty checklist, tallying up all the scores based on what really counts for me in a loco. Drum roll. And the answer is a grand total value of £267. Now remember, value's in the eye of the beholder, so what you value may vary. Here's the financial breakdown. I parted with 90 quid, £85 for the loco and an extra £5 for the delivery. Now, here comes the cool part, the cost-benefit ratio. If we take that £267 of value and divide it by £90 outlay, what do we get? Well, it's a shiny ratio of 2.97. Turns out, it's a gem. Now, since we're just starting out, we don't have much to compare that to. But here's the golden rule. A score over 1 means we're on the right track. Below 1, well, that's no-go territory. Just a few points to close it out. I know it doesn't feel right to call it a gem when the speaker doesn't function correctly, but the criteria we're using doesn't overly penalise the loco for this factor too much. And that's purely because I can easily go out and get a new TTS chip and stick it in the loco. It might cost a little bit of money, but ultimately, it's not the end of the world. So there we have it, a solid start and a promising journey ahead. I'm keen to see how future models measure up against our new benchmark. And that brings us to the end of our episode. We've delved deep into the details, weighing the good against the not so good. As always, your thoughts and comments are what make this journey more enjoyable. So, I encourage you to share your views in the comments below. If you found value in today's content, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing so you're always in the loop with our latest findings and eBay purchases. Thanks for spending your time with me today. Until next time, keep those trains on the track. Bye guys!